They told you to love yourself. They sold it as salvation. But what if this self-love you chant in the mirror is nothing more than a polished form of emotional escapism? A convenient shield dressed in spiritual lingo, masking the dismembered self you no longer dare to face. You post your affirmations with conviction. Yet why does the emptiness still echo when the likes fade? Why, despite all the mantras, do you still feel like a stranger to your own soul? Loving yourself became a sacred commandment. But no one warned you. Many use that commandment to justify emotional stagnation. There's a dangerous gap between self-compassion and self-indulgence, between accepting your truth and weaponizing it to avoid growth. Today's self-love is often narcissism baptized in spiritual aesthetics, smiling in soft lighting while bleeding internally from wounds never acknowledged. Picture someone alone in a dim room, whispering affirmations to the mirror. The words sound powerful, but the silence behind them screams louder. That's not healing. That's performance. And that's why this message is urgent. Because we're witnessing a mass psycho-spiritual bypass. Trauma repackaged as empowerment, avoidance branded as self-respect. The collapse is now. Relationships fail not from lack of love, but from people too armored in self-care to truly connect. Emotional burnout is no longer physical, it's existential. And I say this not as a preacher, but as someone who was seduced by the same illusion. I was the man burning sage over unhealed patterns, reciting Louise Hay while my inner child screamed beneath the surface. This isn't another video praising self-love. It's a brutal invitation to strip away the spiritual makeup and stare into the raw, uncomfortable mirror of who you really are. Because real love, real self-love, begins only when all illusions end. You were programmed to believe that loving yourself means never needing anyone. It started young, when love was transactional, when pleasing others earned affection and rejection taught you independence. So you built an armor. If no one loves me the way I need, I'll love myself so fiercely that I'll never feel lack again. That wasn't healing. That was survival. And the digital world amplified the distortion. Social media became a theater where curated self-love earns applause. I don't need anyone gets likes. Protect your energy goes viral. But no one tells you that real self-love is born in discomfort, not in bubble baths, not in crystals, not in buying another damn self-help course. The most honest self-love begins when you stop numbing and start remembering. Capitalism turned self-love into a marketable identity. It taught you that wholeness can be achieved, or purchased. A skincare routine here, a mindfulness retreat there, and voila, enlightenment. But wholeness doesn't come in installments. And repeating, I am enough, won't make it true if it's just another spell cast to avoid the deeper work. Robert Cialdini warned us, the more we repeat something out loud, the more we believe it, even when it's a carefully constructed lie. And here's the trap. The more you equate self-love with protecting your comfort, the further you drift from transformation. Viktor Frankl reminded us that meaning is born not in pleasure, but in suffering met with purpose. But your curated self-care rituals won't tell you that. They're too gentle, too clean. Real self-love is messy. It's you in tears, facing the part of you that never felt enough, and refusing to run this time. The truth is, the people who taught you to love yourself also taught you how to hide. Every time you proclaim, I love myself, there may be a hidden scream behind it. A scream from the parts of you left abandoned in childhood. Jung warned us, what you refuse to confront within becomes your fate. And today, we're watching a generation convincing itself of self-worth while unraveling in toxic relationships, spiritual bypassing, and emotional addiction. The ego, terrified of vulnerability, puts on the mask of self-sufficiency. But behind that mask trembles a fractured self begging to be seen. The shadow, your unspoken fears, suppressed rage, hidden cravings, has been exiled in favor of positivity. You were taught to love only your best traits, the curated strengths, the polished edges. But true self-love demands the opposite, to sit beside your chaos without flinching, to hold your jealousy without moralizing it, to cradle your insecurities instead of drowning them in affirmations and incense. Support groups teach performance, The language of healing becomes a shield. But acceptance without confrontation is just denial in slow motion. Loving yourself isn't telling the world you're powerful. It's enduring the rawness of being human without seeking escape. Gabor Mate reminds us, emotional addiction hides in society's most praised behaviors, protecting your energy, focusing on you. All of it can be a mask. If you're running from connection, it's not healing. It's fear. Fragmentation begins the moment you amputate a part of yourself to appear healed. That confident, radiant version of you, it's not the whole story. Behind her stands the unacknowledged twin, scared, messy, hungry for truth. Until she's invited in, your self-love is a theatrical monologue. No matter how eloquent, it's incomplete. Real love begins when you stop performing and start remembering who you buried to survive. We live in the era of performative freedom. Do what you want, be who you want, love yourself above all. But hidden inside that message is a cage, because freedom without inner structure becomes an addiction to desire. Emotional capitalism figured this out long ago. It turned self-love into a product, scalable, brandable, profitable. It built influencers to sell you what only raw self-confrontation could ever truly offer. Existential emptiness used to be a sacred invitation to stillness. Now it's patched with morning routines, pastel-covered journals, and emotional dopamine hits. The message is clear. Follow the right rituals, and you'll love yourself. But your soul doesn't operate on checklists. And the harder you chase self-love as a goal, the more it slips through your hands. Because love isn't a destination. It's a mirror. One that doesn't care how pretty your affirmations sound. False freedom is seductive. It lets you cut ties, walk away from discomfort, cancel anything that challenges you, all in the name of boundaries. But underneath this new spiritual armor is a quiet epidemic. Emotionally numb adults, terrified of true intimacy, allergic to reflection. In the name of healing, we've built fortresses, but no one comes in, and more tragically, no one really sees us. Daniel Kahneman showed us how unconscious biases shape even our most intimate choices. Apply that to self-love, and a terrifying possibility emerges. You might only believe you love yourself because you've trained your mind to avoid pain. A new crystal, a flight to Bali, a no-drama boundary that hides unresolved trauma. But what if your peace is just a well-decorated avoidance strategy? What if real self-love demands confrontation, not comfort? The truth is, the love you're searching for won't come from shielding yourself. It will come when you burn everything you built to protect what was never truly you. At some point, you'll have to break every mirror, shatter every label, burn every mantra you used to numb the ache. Because as long as your self-love relies on pretty phrases and aesthetic rituals, it's not love. It's a costume. The real turning point comes when you finally sit with the child inside you, the rage you disowned, the need for approval you masked as confidence, and you stop running. Florence Scovel. Shin once said the universe doesn't respond to what we say, but to what we truly vibrate. So ask yourself now, what frequency are you actually transmitting when you look in the mirror? Is it compassion, or is it desperation wrapped in self-assurance? Is it strength, or control disguised as calm? That question is worth more than 1,000 healing workshops. The reconstruction begins when there's no one left to blame. When you realize that self-love isn't a fortress, it's a threshold. It's not protecting your peace from others, but learning to sit in your own emotional fire and not flinch. Real self-love is relational. It demands that you stop being an island. It invites you to feel fully, without editing, without filtering, without excusing the mess inside you. Be honest. How many times have you used "I'm focusing on me" as a shield to avoid being accountable to someone else? How often has "I love myself" meant I refuse to be vulnerable? That's not love. That's avoidance with good branding. And your soul knows. Reconstruction doesn't look good on Instagram. It's gritty, ugly, non-linear. But that's where the real love lives, in the ash of everything you burned to get free. There comes a moment when there's nothing left to say. No more posts to publish. No more affirmations to rehearse. Just you in the quiet ruins of your curated identity, surrounded by the wreckage of every version of yourself you built to survive. And in that sacred stillness, and something shifts. A love emerges that doesn't need to be spoken. A love that doesn't perform. A love that simply is. This kind of self-love doesn't protect you from the fall. It is what waits for you after it. It's not pretty. It's not poetic. It's the kind of love that crawls out of grief, that wakes up next to the shattered pieces of your pride and still whispers, "I'm here." That love doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't seek applause. It simply rises because there's nothing left to hide behind. This is when the illusion dies. And with it, the endless need to be seen, validated, admired. When you bury the character you played for the world, what's left is not weakness, it's truth. The raw, naked truth of who you've always been underneath the survival stories. The love that doesn't need a hashtag. The peace that doesn't beg for silence. So look inward now. Without filters. Without performance. Without fear. Ask yourself brutally and honestly, do you love yourself? Or have you just learned to avoid yourself more skillfully? You love yourself. But who is this self? The system learned that control works better when disguised as care, that love can be weaponized, and obedience becomes smoother when it feels voluntary. But there's a point where the script glitches, where emptiness persists, even after all the mantras. That's where the simulation fractures. And maybe that's where you begin. Comment below, "My love begins where the character dies." Share this with someone still living under the illusion. And if you're ready to keep breaking chains, subscribe now. Real self-love begins where illusion ends.